YouTube. Mhm. YouTube. Mhm.
How often do you think about money?
YouTube. And Margaret French, okay. Oh, do something? It's me. Right. Hello, Dr. Frida. Can you hear me? Hello.
Hey, Marguerite.
Hey, Ron. Dr. Frida, good evening. Aha. Is it okay. Music stopped. Is that should I let Jared know?
Hi, Marguerite.
Hey, how are you?
Fine, and you?
I'm well, thank you. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
Come on. Okay, so now I have to find him. Oh, I have to say cancel here first. So we got in. That's the beginning of it. Hey, Jared, where are you? Are you? Are you? Are you? Yeah, yeah. Music stops. Maya. Okay, Jared. Aha, got it. Music stops. Maya. A toast to you guys all. I wish I could give you some of my tea. Toast to you guys all. I wish I could give you some of my tea. Toast to you guys all. I wish I could give you some of my tea.
I'm gonna wait and see if I can get my camera to turn on.
Toast to you guys all. I wish I could give you some of my tea.
I'm gonna wait and see if I can get my camera to turn on.
Toast to you guys all. I wish I could give you some of my tea.
I'm gonna wait and see if I can get my camera to turn on.
Toast to you guys all. I wish I could give you some of my tea.
I'm gonna wait and see if I can get my camera to turn on.
Toast to you guys all. I wish I could give you some of my tea. I wish I could give you some of my tea. I wish I could give you some of my tea. I wish I could give you some of my tea. Okay. It's not in your spam.
Let me look at my spam.
Okay. Yeah. It's not in your spam.
Let me look at my spam.
Okay. Yeah. It's not in your spam.
Let me look at my spam.
Okay. Yeah. It's not in your spam. Okay.
Let me look at my spam.
He is not in the office, but they already on the. Okay, let me. It's not in your spam. Okay. Check. Yeah, Ron. He is not in the office, but they already on the. Okay, let me. It's not in your spam. Okay. Check. Yeah, Ron. He is not in the office, but they already on the. Okay, let me. It's not in your spam. Okay. Yeah, Ron. He is not in the office, but they already on the. Okay, let me. Yeah, spam. Yeah, Ron. He is not in the office, but they already on the. Hey, Ron. Ron, can you hear me? Ron? Ron? Are you on mute? Can you forward the link to Joyce or the Zoom number? Do you have a number? You? Okay. How will we do that? Dr. Frida, it's wonderful to see you.
Is she muted?
Oh, is she? Uh-oh.
I didn't hear you. Wait, is it just me or testing? Can people hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Oh, okay, good. I couldn't
And you can,
tell.
why?
right.
Yeah, because I wasn't hearing you. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being on.
Oh yeah, cool.
Yes, ma'am. Let me see. Event, everything going okay. Good. Okay.
I see Dr. Frida's, I see your lips moving, but I'm not hearing you.
I just heard her. Oh, she's back on. Is she on mute? You're not muted, right, Dr. Frida? No. She can hear me. Huh. Okay. What am I going to do with Joyce?
I love technology.
Oh, Ronald. No. Cancel. Okay. Yeah, okay. Go back. Okay. Oops. Gee.
Marguerite?
Yes. Joyce need the link to sign in.
Your sister?
Yeah. Do you have the link? I mean,
I can send it to her.
Would be great. I mean, you have her number, right?
Yeah, I thought I have it on feel.
Appreciate that.
Dr. Frida was on there, but we couldn't hear her.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
All right.
I can hear you, Dr. Frida. Yeah,
Okay,
I can hear.
okay.
Thank you, Ron. Bye. Mhm. Thank you. I can hear you. Let me let Joyce know.
One more thing.
Oh, Joyce mobile.
Share my screen. Which thing? I know how to do the green, but how do I find the actual Google Slides?
Oh, let me go open. Let's just go and open now.
Yes. Ron is sending you the link right now. I mean, he's texting it to you, I think.
Hello?
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I tap that when I'm ready. And then I do which present.
All right. Oh yeah, and definitely Joyce is excited. Joyce found you on YouTube, and so she called me. She said, "You have to see this lady. You have to hear her message." And so I'm excited, and and it's 5 o'clock. So as soon as she comes in,
Yeah,
I'll find out if Jared, if they have anybody else.
It's the internet. So it's in a tab next to your email.
Pardon me?
So I'm guessing Chrome. Because it's on the internet.
Okay, so Cheryl,
Yes.
okay, you
Okay,
there?
you there? Yes, I'm here.
Awesome, awesome. Well, we'll get started
I'm sorry. Hold on one second. Let me quiet please.
in just a little bit. Yeah, I need to uh, silence mine, but in case somebody is lost and can't find their link, I'll leave mine on. And as soon as Ron comes back,
Okay, I'm gonna turn my.
I'm here, Marguerite.
okay, okay, I guess we'll get started um, and see how many people are there. But Dr. Frita, you're okay with Facebook and YouTube and all that good media, right?
That's all the good media. That's how the world has turned, especially during the pandemic.
Isn't that amazing? Oh my God. So I want to thank you guys and express my gratitude and honor to have you on this call today. Dr. Frida, as you just mentioned, we are slowly getting over the pandemic, and I don't, listening to the numbers and the fear sometimes, and I'm not sure if we are slowly getting out of it, but I think my optimism says it's time we slowly move out of it and move on with our lives, and whatever the new normal is, that we get on with it. I believe we learned a lot. And so I sincerely hope that as humans, we uh, realize, the way, be more cautious how we go day to day and carry on with our lives. But I also want to say on another note is we are celebrating Juneteenth, appreciating where we've been, um, celebrating where we are today, all the opportunities that are there for us, technology. I mean, can you imagine? Uh, and so I am really, really excited to have us all here as a group. And, a short introduction of myself. My name is Marguerite Rensch, and Marguerite Rensch usually, because Noreen is my first name, but I was called Marguerite all my life. So I have this problem. So I call myself Anne Marguerite. I'm a financial services professional. Actually, I came from the medical field, and caring for people in a compassionate way is my core value. That is what is important to me. So I carried that over into the life, the profession I am in right now. And taking care of people doesn't have to be in a profession, has nothing to do with a profession, has to do with we have to take care of each other at all times. So again, I want to welcome you guys. We have the agenda today is we have a brief meditation. Cheryl will take us through a 3 minutes meditation so we can focus on what we're doing here today. After that, we're honored to have Dr. Frita talk to us about health. And I like the way your messaging is, how it's delivered and what you think. So I appreciate that. And then we have Ronald Pennell, and of course, in the background, our technology team, they are doing a tremendous job, and I should not neglect to recognize them. So I would like to ask Cheryl to maybe take over and do the meditation section.
Thank you. So, so my name is Cheryl Cranshaw, and I am the Executive Director of Conscious Voices African American Wellbeing Center we're located in Oakland, and we focus on the health issues, the mental health issues of African American people. But our our focus right now is also creating an integrated healthcare center for African American people, because there isn't one in Alameda County. So, well, actually, there isn't. I couldn't find one in the country, but that's a whole nother story. Um, but I really appreciated this opportunity to do the meditation, because one of the things that, meditation is one of the most researched, and I know I'm probably speaking to the choir here too, so, but just bear with me, because I get on a roll, you know what I mean? But it's one of the most researched interventions for stress and trauma. It's not pills, it's not medicine, it doesn't have side effects that you don't want in other parts of the body. It's not toxic, so we really do encourage people to create a meditation practice. And I could say for myself, it's been very beneficial. I think I'm a lot calmer. The people around me may not, but it's working for me. So that said, I want to do a technique that we use to de-escalate ourselves. And really it helps to manage helps to sort of cleanse the body of stress, or the stress hormones, the feelings that they bring into your body. So we just ask people to sit comfortably. Put your hands somewhere that's comfortable. I like to put my hands like right on my belly, like right in my lap.
Excuse me, Cheryl.
Yes?
Can you speak up a little bit?
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh,
Maybe
goodness.
my ear, but
Can you hear me now? Is this
now we
better?
can hear you clearly.
Oh,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
apologize. Oh goodness, I was just talking. Okay, so I like to put my hands I put my hands on my lap where it's comfortable, and kind of, put them on my belly. But people, please feel free to put your hands where they feel comfortable, your feet where they feel comfortable, hopefully flat on the floor. But, the point is for you to find your comfort space. And as you're doing this, you're going to start to notice your breathing. And that's what we want to focus on during these few minutes together. So you take a deep breath in out, in and out. And please feel free to close your eyes if you haven't already. And if you don't want to close your eyes, we just ask that you avert your eyes. Meaning you pick a point on the floor and you sort of focus on that point, but you're still breathing. Now you imagine yourself sitting at the edge of the water, your favorite body of water. Could be the beach, could be the pond, could be the lake. You're sitting there in a comfortable position. You're still breathing. And as you're sitting there, you can feel the wind on your face. You're focused on your breath, and you may have thoughts come into your mind, but you just notice them and then release them into the universe. Bring your thoughts back to your breath. So as you're sitting there, I want you to imagine that any tension that you have, you're going to release through your breath. And how we do that is on the exhale, we start to imagine the breath releasing from our body tension. So with each exhale, more and more tension is released. And you can feel it leaving your body. And in fact, you can visualize it leaving your body. And as it leaves your body, you can see it drift up into the universe and be carried away by the wind. And this tension coming from your breath, coming from your mouth, it's glitter, it turns into glitter. You can see the tension turn into glitter. Red glitter, green glitter, whatever glitter is your color, the color of your tension. Pink, maybe pink, red. And I want you to just sit here for a minute, breathing out that tension, that glitter, and seeing it swept away by the wind, taken away from you and into the universe. Let's just do that for a few rounds of breath at our own pace, our own leisure, not in a rush. Just cleansing ourselves of all the tension of the day, preparing ourselves to be here. So now, as we get ready to return our attention back to the room, we take some last deep cleansing breaths. And we notice that the glitter has gone into the universe. Our tension is reduced. We feel comfortable. We feel safe. We feel welcome in this space. And so, as we turn our attention back to the room, and when we get ready, please open your eyes and let's rejoin our discussion. Thank you for helping me.
Okay.
Yes, Ashe, I'm complete.
You're done?
Yes, I am complete.
Complete.
Sorry, I didn't, yes.
That's okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Okay. Thank you. It's a great way to begin any activity or event. I want to also let you guys know. Can you guys can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. So I also want to say for the rest of the days we have this summit, which I'm really excited about. Tomorrow we have Ronald Pennell, who is a registered representative, is incredible in investing and taking care of people's money. He will speak tomorrow at 5 p.m. also. and he'll talk about saving and investing. So I hope you guys tune in again and listen to him on Saturday. I will talk about how to create the most successful small business in the world. But we're here today, and we have a very, very special guest, a beautiful lady with, I barely know her, but I know she has an incredible spirit. And based on what I heard about what she's sharing with the world, um, she cares about people, cares
Mhm.
about her people. And I assume everybody is her people. This morning and the past couple of days, I was thinking, I wish I could somehow um, get her to talk to people in other places in the world. I understand in Suriname, the country where I'm from originally, there are people, because it's so close to Brazil, and in Brazil, it's a big mess with the pandemic. People run to Suriname because the numbers of infected people were very low. But now, I spoke with a friend of mine who said, I mean, the hospitals are full. Some people, the conspiracy theories have reached those shores because, the world has become so small. People refuse to accept the vaccination. So I'm thinking we need to somehow get Dr. Frida to talk to them. And so uh, I am very honored, and she will talk about, tell us about herself. And with this, Dr. Frida, I would like to give you the floor and thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And yes, you are right. Everyone is my people. Everyone is my people. And if I didn't believe it before, the pandemic has certainly helped to teach the lesson, because the world is so small. We can feel, we can sit here and we can feel very comfortable in the United States because our numbers are going down. But if our neighbors in India, if our neighbors in Brazil are still having surges, the COVID-19 virus knows no borders. It doesn't respect boundaries. And so everyone is our people. We have to protect the community, or else none of us, we're just not safe. But that being said, I am very excited. And I thank you so much. I'm so happy that you invited me to speak today for this Juneteenth celebration. And it couldn't be coming at a better time with everything that's going on. And for the health and wellness portion, I want to talk about Juneteenth and how we can get freedom from sickness, how we can not be in bondage from illness. And so today I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, because I'll be talking about ways to have a healthy lifestyle, a heart healthy lifestyle, certain lifestyle mechanisms, be it diet, be it exercise. And I'll actually talk on meditation as well. Let me see here. Just going to open up my screen here. And as I get my screen shared, I will tell you a little bit more about myself. So I am Dr.
Okay.
Frida. Are you able to hear me?
I can hear you. Yes.
Okay. So I'm Dr. Frida McCray Fisher. I'm a medical doctor, and I've been triple board certified in nephrology, internal medicine, and pediatrics. So I've been certified to practice kidneys and high blood pressure. And also in my training, my med peds training, I did a double residency in both internal medicine and pediatrics. And so, yes, I like to talk about a little bit of it all. And that is what brings me to the YouTube channel that you mentioned. I did a double residency in both internal medicine and pediatrics. And so, yes, I like to talk about a little bit of it all. Let's start presentation. Just getting my presentation going here.
Right. Yeah. Not a problem.
But it's funny, you mentioned, sharing the message to the rest of the world. That was my whole purpose in starting the YouTube. I've always enjoyed speaking to my patients one-on-one, being there, talking to them, touching them, examining them. But a lot of times when I would see patients, especially if they were coming to me from someplace else where they didn't feel like there was a connection, I felt like I was always able to connect with them and get them to understand why I made the recommendations I made. Instead of just sitting there and telling them what to do, you have to talk to people. And I would explain. And, I find that my patients tend to be very receptive to those explanations. And I was like, well, then let me try to expand this beyond the confines of my office, which is what made me start the YouTube channel, where I really can give patient advice, even though, it is just informational. Nothing replaces the advice of your own physician, but I'm able to just really try to break things down in layman's terms. And it really does expand across the world. And it's funny because I started off, it's Nikki 20. I started off with just 3 subscribers. I was getting started. I had my iPhone camera, my tripod and everything. And my youngest daughter, who was 7 at the time, was like, Mom, what are you doing? I was like, I have a YouTube channel. And she was like, that's great. And she said, how many subscribers do you have? And I was like, I have 3. And she said, that's sad. And so she vowed that she would help me to try to grow and to build my YouTube channel, she and my other 2 children. And they, try to have all kinds of bargaining, to make sure that they got something out of the deal. And I promised them a dog. And they, at first they said, hey, can we get a dog if we get 100 subscribers? I was like, no. And they were like, how about if we get 1,000 subscribers? I was like, no. And so I came up with a number that I thought was unrealistic. I said, if we hit 10,000 subscribers, I will buy you a dog. But as I sit here today with you, we are now up to 297,000 subscribers, all from a little, YouTube channel that started with 3 subscribers. Yes. Do they have a dog? They don't have a dog yet, but I'm getting them a dog next month. Okay. So
you can't share unless you quit.
Okay.
You just want to not share.
So I'm having some trouble sharing my screen here.
Really?
Yeah, let's see. I need permission.
So we just try to give it permission, but now I want you to quit Zoom in order for it to know it has permission. That's clear and open. And that's just to do it later.
I tell you what, should I switch computers?
Either way, I'll log out.
Okay, I'll be able to share it in just a second to log out.
Okay, not a problem. Take your time. Why not? Yeah, definitely the motto freedom. How do we strengthen it? There's no freedom without health. Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Okay, now we can do it.
It's coming. So anyone who is just signing in, Dr. Frita is here, and she is bringing up her her presentation. So that's what we're waiting for.
All right, are you able to see my screen?
I can see your screen, yes, ma'am.
All right, and you can hear me. All right,
yeah. That's
another thing. I learned that everyone is my people, and I learned to expect technical difficulties, but
yeah.
Now we are ready to get going. So yeah, so I am Dr. Frida, medical doctor who's been triple board certified in nephrology, internal medicine, and pediatrics, and I'm excited to talk to you today about Juneteenth, freedom from sickness, and how we can do our best to live a heart-healthy life. So let's talk about the sickness that we want to be freed from, the sickness that keeps us in bondage. When you look at the #1 cause of death in the United States, it's heart disease. It's heart disease. And high blood pressure is actually a leading cause of heart disease, of strokes, of kidney disease, and Black people and people of color are disproportionately affected by these illnesses. And yes, there are certain medications which can help these illnesses, but even before you get to the point of needing medications, there are so many things that we can do in our lifestyle. And that's what I really want to talk about today. Just having that knowledge so we can help to have freedom from sickness. So I first want to go into high blood pressure or hypertension. So what is hypertension? That top number that we all know of, that systolic blood pressure, is the pressure in your vessels when the heart is squeezing or contracting. And then that bottom number, the diastolic, is the pressure in your vessels when the heart has relaxed. And I really want everyone to pay attention to this slide because the definition of high blood pressure has changed. And pretty recently, actually in 2017, the American Heart Association and the American College of Cardiology got together and changed the definition. So optimal blood pressure is when the systolic blood pressure is less than 120, and when the diastolic blood pressure, that bottom number, is less than 80. But if that top number is 130 or higher, you have hypertension. And if that bottom number is 80 or higher, you have hypertension. Now, it used to be that 130s over 80s was considered to be okay, maybe just a little warning. But now, stage 1 hypertension is a systolic blood pressure of 130 to 139 with a diastolic blood pressure of 80 to 89. And if your blood pressure is 140 or higher, you have stage 2 hypertension. And if that diastolic blood pressure is 90 or higher. And here's what's really important to recognize. I know that a lot of my patients, I'll see them in my hypertension clinic, and their blood pressure might be in the 140s. And they say, oh, doc, that's normal for me. You know, my blood pressure always runs that way. And they think it's normal for them because they don't have any symptoms. But the truth of the matter is that the body is such a miracle that it will allow you to adjust and get comfortable and not have symptoms of the high blood pressure. But that high blood pressure is still damaging your vessels, it's damaging your brain, damaging your heart, and damaging your kidneys. In fact, the number 2 cause of patients being on dialysis, the reason I see them in my dialysis clinic, is high blood pressure. And oftentimes they don't even have symptoms. And that's why they call high blood pressure the silent killer. So make sure you know your numbers and you understand that a high blood pressure is not normal for you. You are at risk for kidney disease, heart disease, and stroke if you're walking around with the high blood pressure. So then let's talk about the causes of hypertension. So there are 2 types of hypertension. There's primary or essential hypertension, which means there's no definite cause or etiology. It just could be genetic, and that's about 95% of the cases. But then there are many secondary causes. And so if you are someone who's been diagnosed with high blood pressure, it's important to talk to your physician and ask, hey, is there an underlying reason why I have it? Because wouldn't you want to know if there was a potentially treatable or reversible cause of your hypertension? And so I'll share a few of the somewhat common secondary causes of high blood pressure. So thyroid disease. So even if you have a hyperactive thyroid or hyperthyroidism, or if you have an underactive thyroid, hypothyroidism, that can actually be associated with high blood pressure. Also, obstructive sleep apnea. Raise your hand if you snore. You don't have to raise your hand. But if you're someone who snores and you get apnea, if you actually stop breathing, then that actually puts you at risk for having high blood pressure. And some of the warning signs for obstructive sleep apnea are things like being sleepy all the time, having somnolence or sleepiness in the daytime, getting headaches. And a lot of times patients with apnea will have thicker necks. And if you are an obese person, you might be at risk, or if you have a thick tongue, something that might block your airway. But then people can snore too, and then people can have obstructive sleep apnea. And if you do, that certainly can put you at risk for having high blood pressure. That can be a secondary cause. And then there's some other illnesses, something called Cushing's syndrome, if your body makes too much cortisol. And if you have that, then you might get a round face, abdominal obesity, or a lot of fat in your stomach, what they call a buffalo hump, a lot of fat in the back. And that can be if you have your body is making too much stress hormone, too much cortisol can cause you to have that. And then there's something else called Conn's syndrome. That's if you make too much aldosterone, that makes you hold on to salt. And there's several other things as well. Even more serious illnesses like a brain tumor can cause high blood pressure. What happens is if you have a brain tumor, or even if you have a stroke that has a brain bleed and it causes an increased pressure in your head, then your body's response is to increase your total blood pressure. And so you really have to pay attention, because sometimes the high blood pressure is not just run of the mill. It's not just the primary hypertension. Sometimes it can be due to an underlying cause. Obesity can be a risk factor for high blood pressure as well. and some medications, like if you're someone who has to take steroids, say you have a chronic lung disease, asthma, or emphysema, and you take prednisone, a steroid, that medicine can cause high blood pressure. And certainly some illicit drugs. If you are someone who has used cocaine, that can cause high blood pressure, or methamphetamines. So again, talk to your physician to find out the underlying causes, because if it's something that can be treated or reversed, you certainly want to know before having to be on medicine for a lifetime. So now, and this is why I'm so happy that we did meditation in the beginning, because I want to talk about ways that you can lower your blood pressure naturally. How can you lower your blood pressure naturally? Well, certainly with exercise, you can do it. And the American Heart Association recommends that you exercise for a minimum of 150 minutes per week. So that's about 30 minutes, at least 5 days out of the week of moderate exercise, or if it's extreme or vigorous exercise, at least 75 minutes in a week. And studies have shown that that consistent exercise can help to lower your blood pressure naturally. Another way is meditation. So that slow, deep breathing that we were doing in the beginning is scientifically shown, it's physiologic to help with the blood pressure. So I really recommend that everyone get into a meditation practice. And here's what happens to the body when you meditate and you breathe deeply. As you breathe slowly, so if you breathe in for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, breathe out, what happens is it slows your heart rate down and it makes your blood vessels dilate so that the blood has less pressure against those vessels. And it literally can lower your blood pressure. So yes, meditation is right on point for us to have freedom from sickness, because it can help to lower the blood pressure. Now, one thing I do want to mention, as I talk about lowering blood pressure naturally, I don't want people to think that it's one or the other, natural or medicines, holistic or medicines. No, both of these worlds can work together. If you're someone who has high blood pressure and you have a physician you trust, then if your physician recommends, based on knowing your history, if they recommend that you take blood pressure medications, let them know that you're interested in holistic and natural, because what you can do is you can take the medications, because you don't want to walk around with your blood pressure sky high and damaging your organs. But guess what? As these natural remedies, as these holistic remedies start to work, then your doctor will wean you off of the medications. And just to be clear, there are some people who have very resistant hypertension, and they may have to take some medications for a lifetime even. But if you're a person who wants to be holistic, you want to be natural, do all the natural remedies and talk to your doctor about the things that I'm about to share with you today. But just remember, it's not one or the other, because the last thing you want is to have a very high blood pressure while you're waiting for the various natural remedies to work, to kick in, and then you end up on dialysis while you wait. No, talk with a doctor you trust and see if you can implement both if they're recommending a medication. All right. So then some other ways to lower the blood pressure. So we talked about exercise, we talked about meditation. Let me see. You also want to minimize the alcohol that you are drinking. So this is where I get kind of unpopular sometimes, but just let me give you the recommendations for alcohol. If you're a lady, it's recommended that you drink 1 drink a day. If you are a man, no, it's recommended that you drink no more than 1 drink a day. So if you're not a drinker, please don't listen to me and run out and start drinking. No, if you're not a drinker, please don't drink. But if you are someone who wants to partake in alcohol, no more than 1 drink a day if you're a lady. If you're a man, no more than 2 drinks a day. And if you're a man over 65, no more than 1 drink a day. So what's a drink? I have had some patients who say, oh yeah, I just drink 1 drink a day. But when I press them and ask them what a drink is, they'll pour themselves something like about a 16 ounce or 20 ounce glass of some dark liquor or some vodka. And I'm like, that is not a drink. There are very strict definitions of what a drink is. So a drink is 12 grams of ethanol. And so this is how that translates. If it's wine you're drinking, 8 ounces, that's 1 drink. If it is beer, 12 ounces. And if it's a stronger liquor, like an 80 proof, 1.5 ounces. And so again, for women, 1 drink a day, no more than that. If you don't drink, please don't start drinking. Men, no more than 2 drinks. And over the age of 65, no more than 1 drink a day. Okay, but yes, a drink has very specific definitions. And then there's some other things you can do to lower blood pressure naturally. And again, talk to your physician about these things. But fish oil, there have been some studies that show that fish oil can help to decrease, and coenzyme Q10 or CoQ10 can help to decrease. And so there are various things that can help to decrease your blood pressure naturally. And you definitely want to make sure that you get enough rest, that you go to bed, and and in addition, what you put in your body is going to help you. You want to have a heart healthy diet. You want a heart healthy diet. So what does that mean? That means you need to eat the rainbow. You want to have a variety of fruits and vegetables with all types of colors. And so you can get all of the different rich antioxidants and the vitamins and the minerals. And so foods like broccoli is rich in vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin E. It has antioxidants in it as well. You want to have blueberries. You want to have spinach. That's another excellent choice. You want to have oranges, tomatoes, carrots, and you really want to just make sure that you eat the rainbow. And when you prepare your plates, pay attention to your portion size. We talk about side items usually when we're talking about fruits and vegetables, but I don't really like that because that implies that the vegetable should be the small portion and the meat should be the main portion. No, I want you to think of your fruits and vegetables as the main portion. And so if you divide your plate in half, I want fruits and vegetables to fill up at least half that plate. And that will help you because in fruits and vegetables, you have a lot of bulk or a lot of fiber. And the more fiber you have, then the less likely you are to overeat because fiber makes you full faster. And also fiber has been shown to help to decrease your cholesterol. It can bind to some of that bad cholesterol. So definitely you want to make sure that you eat the rainbow. Also in your diet, you want to incorporate whole grains, not the refined grains, but whole grains. And this is why they call them whole grains, because you're eating all three components when you eat a whole grain. You're eating the outer layer, the bran layer that's full of fiber, that middle layer, the endosperm, and then the germ layer, which is most central to the whole grain, and that has vitamins and that has minerals. If you're dealing with a refined grain, like white bread or white pastas, cake, things of that nature, then these refined grains have been stripped of the fiber. They've been stripped of the vitamins and minerals. So whole grains specifically, and you'll know because when you look at the label on the foods, it's going to say whole. So your oats, your barleys, you want to make sure that it's a whole grain. Now you will find that some of the refined grains are enriched. And that means they put back some of the vitamins and minerals, but they really cannot efficiently put back the fiber. So you want to make sure that whole grains are a part of your heart healthy diet. The other thing you want is to have healthy fats. And so the healthy fats are the monounsaturated fats and the polyunsaturated fats. And a great source for polyunsaturated fats is avocado. I love avocados. I really do.
Mhm.
You can just eat them, your avocado toast or your avocado with some egg whites in the morning, or I just love avocados. And they are loaded with the omega-3 fats, those healthy fats. And you can also get those healthy fats from certain fish like salmon, if you do eat fish. And so like salmon, albacore, tuna, mackerel, sardines, but you don't want sardines that are loaded down with sodium, but sardines, just the fish in and of itself, is loaded with some healthy fats. But then some other plant-based sources for these healthy fats are actually chia seeds. These are some chia seeds here and hemp seeds. And so even if you are someone who has a plant-based diet, which certainly is a wonderful, healthy, optimal diet, you just don't need to have meat to have fats. You can go find it in the avocado. You can find it in the chia seeds, those beneficial omega-3s. All right. And another thing I want to touch on is the legumes, because that's another plant-based source of protein. So your legumes or your beans and lentils are something that you should have plenty of. And then walnuts. Walnuts are also another source of protein and another source of omega-3s. So definitely having a heart healthy diet is a way that we can naturally lower blood pressure and that we can naturally have a freedom from sickness. All right. Low salt diet. Oh my goodness. You want a low salt diet in order to be healthy, in order to avoid high blood pressure. And so different organizations have different recommendations of how much salt you should have. So the World Health Organization, you should have, less than 20, well, for the USDA, you should have less than 2,300 milligrams of sodium, and less than 2,000 milligrams is what most people say, like KDIGO. The American Heart Association is actually the most strict, and they say you should have less than 1,500 milligrams of sodium. So when I start talking about things in terms of thousands, I think that some might think, oh, 1,000 milligrams, 1,500, 2,000, that's a lot of sodium. It's really not. It's really not. And so I want you to become a label watcher. A lot of my patients will tell me, Dr. Frida, I don't add salt to my food. I have a low salt diet. But honestly, most of the salt that we take in is from pre-packaged foods or from restaurants. It's not what we're adding. And so it's important to be a label watcher. And if you have heart disease, for sure, if you're someone who is over the age of 51, you want to have that less than 1,500 milligrams of sodium, and no one should be having more than 2,300 milligrams of sodium a day. And so you might be asking yourself, okay, what foods, do I have that have had high sodium? So let's look at salt. 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 of a teaspoon. How much sodium do you think that has? It has 590 milligrams. And I know someone might be watching and thinking, oh, but I do sea salt, or I do pink Himalayan salt. Guess what? 1/4 teaspoon of the pink Himalayan or the sea salt, 560 milligrams of sodium. So you do the math. If 1/4 has 560, or if the regular salt has 590, a whole teaspoon has 4 times that. And so already you're over that 2,300 milligram minimum recommendation of sodium if you do even a whole teaspoon of salt. And I share that just to put things in perspective, because that these prepackaged foods and these restaurant foods, oh my goodness, especially the fried foods, will have a lot more sodium. So I just want you to be label watchers. I want you to be label watchers. And then some people are vegan and they like to do a lot of plant-based, which I think is wonderful. But for convenience, if your plant-based foods are pre-packaged foods or the frozen foods, they can also have a lot of salt. So if you think of 2 standard vegan plant-based sausages, just 2, that's 300 milligrams of sodium. And then sometimes, I know that I have patients who say, I'm tired of my kids eating chicken nuggets. I'm going to have them do plant-based chicken nuggets, but that has a lot of sodium too, if it's pre-packaged. So please just make sure that you're watching the labels. And then ketchup. Y'all know you love ketchup. I love ketchup. But just 1 tablespoon of ketchup is anywhere from 160 to 197 milligrams of sodium. And most people don't stop at just 1 tablespoon. And, when I think about ketchup, I don't naturally think, oh, that's very salty. But the point is, you really have to pay attention to what you're putting in your body, because even if you don't pick up a salt shaker, you could be loading down. And y'all know what this is, a TV dinner. I don't even want to talk about the TV dinners. In order for them to be preserved, a lot of them have sodium. And, if I just go to the grocery store, if I grab an average TV dinner that looks like this with your protein and mashed potatoes, some people might think, oh my goodness, there's greens, green beans, it must be healthy. No, a lot of TV dinners in just that 1 serving will have 1,600 milligrams of salt, right? Just 1 serving. And over the pandemic, especially, I know a lot of people, you need to have the convenience. You're trying to work from home. You're trying to raise kids. The kids eat all day, virtual school. And I know a lot of parents are like, here, take this TV dinner. It has a vegetable in it. It's healthy. It's a lot of salt. So just, again, make sure that you are label watchers. Make sure that you're label watchers. And there's a whole lot of other things too, like a can of creamed corn loaded down with sodium. So in everything you do, watch your salt and try to have a heart healthy diet. Now, I do want to make sure I leave some time for questions. So as we talked, I definitely, wanted to make sure that I remind everyone that high blood pressure is a leading cause of heart disease, strokes, kidney disease, definitely the number one killer of men, women, most ethnic groups, certainly number one killer of among Black people. Heart disease, heart disease, heart disease. And so you definitely want to make sure that you have a physician. Even if you feel great, even if you feel healthy, even if you look super fit, you need to know your numbers. You need to know your blood pressure, because the optimal blood pressure is 120/80. That definition changed back in 2017. And so with that, I just want you to know that I do have some other places. I mentioned my YouTube channel, Dr. Frida. I have so many videos. I talk about lupus. I talk about fibroids. I talk about breast cancer. I talk about colon cancer. I definitely talk about kidney disease. I talk about natural ways to optimize your immune system, natural ways. I go into more detail on lowering blood pressure. So please do go to my YouTube channel, Dr. Frida. And you can follow me on any of my handles. My social media handles is Dr. Frida, F-R-I-T, as in take care of yourself, A. You can find it. And then I am very proud. I have another place where you can learn more healthy habits, 10 healthy habits for a better you and a better life. And you can actually get this as a free download. We're talking about freedom. Everybody likes free. I'm giving this to you for free. You just need to go to my website, www.drfrida.com. So drfrida.com, D-R-F-R-I-T as in take care of yourself, A. And with that, I certainly hope that we have some questions. If there's anyone who has questions in the chat, or if anyone, if you have questions, I love to have answers.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. I won't write in the chat, but I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you. I hear you.
Oh, okay. I know in the Black community, in our community, the food, the choice of food is very rich, and barely any vegetarian parts, although I think it's changing. And I'm wondering, is there any recommendation, has anybody written maybe a cookbook, or the chefs diversifying a little bit more in the choices in soul food, for instance?
That's a really, really good point, because yes, so there's a couple of things working. One, in a lot of neighborhoods, especially neighborhoods that have predominantly Black people or people of color, you know, I talk to my patients about trying to be healthy, trying to eat organic foods. But if your neighborhood doesn't have a Whole Foods, or if it doesn't have a Sprouts around the corner, then you can't necessarily do that easily. Or even if you did have a Sprouts, if you walk in there and the food costs $1 million, then it may not be within your budget. And so that is a definite challenge. That's definitely a challenge. And then the other thing that you're touching on, soul food, just the history of soul food, a lot of rich foods, high in carbohydrates, high in salt, salty pork. And so I know that for myself, I actually have a book coming up, and I'll be touching on ways to, even if you have limited means or socioeconomic challenges, ways to have a low salt diet. One example is this: canned food, like canned vegetables, tend to be much less expensive than fresh organic vegetables, right? And so one thing I recommend to my patients is to take that canned vegetable, that salty canned vegetable, pour out all of that water and replace it with just some tap water to help to decrease the salt. That's just one little hint. And then also I find that if patients are talked to about exactly what food is doing to their body, like if they know that sodium, high salt, can cause high blood pressure, can put them on kidney dialysis and make them have a heart attack, and then they start looking at labels, then they can make certain choices. If they're at the dollar store and they grab some chips, they might be like, I really don't have to have these chips. And they might start to make healthier choices. But and then there are also, I know many of the soul food, you can Google different soul food cookbooks where there is vegan or plant-based soul food, where there are certain substitutes that may not taste exactly the same, but they can taste pretty close. So there are options where you can have soul food and still be healthy. The economic challenges are really the trickiest part. But I guess, until we have a system where more people have means, then yes, having that poor diet does put people who are in poorer or lower income circumstances at a higher risk for diseases. That's one of the things we need to keep working for as we talk about this Juneteenth.
During Juneteenth, yes, ma'am. Because without good health, without acceptable health, where we can be active and going out there and work and contribute, it's not, there's no freedom there.
There's no freedom. Right.
Yeah. And about high blood pressure specifically, And I'll tell this story of my own mom. And like everyone else, my mom was just the best mom in the world. And she has a lot of children. She gave birth to a lot of children. And during her last pregnancy, she developed high blood pressure. As many years ago. And so she was put on high blood pressure medication and never got off it. So my question to you is, at what point, and I know you touched on it, that people can, you can have a conversation with your doctor. But in many cases, the doctors will add, maybe another doctor gave the medications, and then when they transfer to another doctor, instead of removing or evaluating and analyze the medications, the patients get more medications for the same problem. Um, can you speak on that? What questions can people ask to have the doctor?
That's a very important question, because that comes down to patients being their own advocates. A lot of physicians, while we do have many physicians who really do have good hearts and who will take their time and explain and teach, there are other physicians who won't, and they kind of will tell you what to do and be like, that's that. And of course, we know that we have some health disparities where we find that oftentimes there is implicit bias within the medical system, where sometimes, patients of color or Black patients don't get the same treatment. Not always, but it's in the system. There's implicit bias. We have all kinds of psychological studies that have been done to show it. And so what I encourage my patients to do, be your own advocate. When you go in to see a doctor, know your history or have it written somewhere, know your medications, and have your questions prepared, and don't be afraid or intimidated. There's a certain posture that doctors tend to do where when we're running out of time, we're looking at the clock, we say, okay, everything's fine, okay, bye. And that's when the doctor turns to the side and your time is up. You have to reclaim your time, have your questions, ask questions. And so if a doctor is putting on your medication, say, okay, make sure you know what the medication is for, and ask for the common side effects. Ask about the common side effects. If a doctor is starting another medication, again, say, what's this for? And if you're already on a high blood pressure medication, let the doctor know. Don't assume that they know. Don't assume they've read the whole chart, though, we should be reading the whole chart, but you want to ask. Because for many patients, the truth of the matter is they may need 2, 3, 4 blood pressure medicines. But as your own advocate, you want to know. And I'm glad you mentioned pregnancy, because pregnancy is another one of those secondary causes of high blood pressure. People, if you already have high blood pressure before getting pregnant, pregnancy can make it worse. And then if you have no history of high blood pressure, you can get something called preeclampsia, where that's when the pregnant lady will get the high blood pressure. She might have protein in her urine, a sign of kidney disease. It can even go on and progress to having liver disease or seizures, and if they get outright eclampsia. And so pregnancy is another one of those risk factors. But yeah, the most important thing is to ask questions. Don't just take what's being told to you by the doctor and be like, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. It's your body. You be the advocate. You ask questions. And if you don't have a good relationship with your doctor, there's no law saying you have to stay with the same doctor. You make sure you find someone, because that's one of the most important relationships you're going to have, the relationship with your doctor.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah. And, and while we're waiting for the next question, I want to kind of go back to what you have mentioned about, people who don't have access, or, soul food being in the diet. I had this one patient, and oh my goodness, she had diabetes, she had high blood pressure. I had given her the whole lecture on healthy diet. And I just, I knew I had it all together with this patient. I thought I was such a good doctor. But when I saw her and I was kind of asking her what she'd been eating, she told me that she was eating bologna sandwiches and soda. And so, and this is some years ago, I was a pretty new doctor. And so here I go back on the high horse, I'm like, I told you need to have low carbs and low salt and no soda, and you should be drinking 2 to 3 liters of water a day, so I'm just re-lecturing her. And then I'm like, so why are you eating all these unhealthy foods? And what she told me was that it was toward the end of the month, her food stamps or EBT card had run out. But with the money she had, with $5, she could buy a loaf of bread. She could buy that bologna, that salty prepackaged bologna, and she could buy a 2-liter soda, and she could feed herself and her family until her next, food stamp allotment came in. And that was a powerful lesson I learned as a new doctor. Stop, do not judge, ask questions, and put yourself in your patient's shoes. Because what makes a person who can afford, healthier foods better than the one who cannot afford? Absolutely nothing. And there's no guarantee that our circumstances won't change. And so it's important for you to be seeing a doctor who has that sensitivity, who's not going to sit there and judge. Because if I were to judge my patients, they wouldn't be honest with me. I have patients whose blood pressure is high, and the first thing I say, okay, are you taking the medicine? And they'll be like, nope, and then I don't have to worry about stacking medicine and stacking medicine and stacking medicine. I'll talk to them and say, okay, why aren't you taking it? If it's interfering with your love life, to my young men, is that why? Okay, we can work with it. Is it making you feel sad or depressed? Is it making your feet swell? You find out why, instead of just labeling on the chart, this patient is non-compliant. You have to have conversations. And I find that when I encourage my patients to be honest with me, and I, talk to them out of love and not out of judgment, then they tell me the truth, and it's better for them and it's better for me. And then, going back to your mother and the medications on top of medications, I wonder how many of the doctors said, wait, are you taking medication 1 and 2? Because it's possible that she might not have wanted the medicines or the drugs in her body, or maybe it didn't make sense to her and she was trying her own remedy. Before stacking on medications, you pause and say, are you taking the medicine? Why or why not? You have to get to the root of the problem instead of stacking Band-Aids and Band-Aids on top of it, because then you never have the solution, and we'll never get a freedom from sickness if we don't have that good communication with our doctors, right?
With the doctor, right. And the doctors have a fiduciary responsibility to but how many really take the time? And yeah.
And that's why it's important to have conversations like this. And I hope that all of your listeners are just, if they don't take anything else out of this conversation, be your own advocate. I don't care how many degrees and letters and alphabet soup your doctor has behind their names, or how many times they grab that door and be like, okay, that's all. You reclaim your time. You understand that your body is important. Your health is important. Be your own advocate. And the way that you'll feel more confident is if you already have your questions lined up, if you know your history, and guarantee, that will be better for your health in the long run.
Cool. Thank you. All right. Sister Joyce, are you here? Can you unmute? Okay, Ron, do you have a question?
Yeah, I am actually excited and I'm glad that that Miss Dr. Frida got on this call. I was recently at the doctor for some pain, and they did my high blood pressure. It was 132/80, and I asked, is that okay? And it goes by quick, and they just say, yeah, that's okay. So I learned today that it's not okay. And that there's some changes that I need to make for my life. So thank you so much, Dr. Frida, for getting this information to us, and to me especially, because this information, unless we do the research, we wouldn't get it. And so I appreciate that. Thank you so much for your time today.
You're very welcome. And thank you for sharing that story, because the other important thing to note is that your blood pressure, when you're in a hustle and bustle situation and you're in a doctor's office, your pressure may be a little higher than what it is when you're at home, and so what I would do is make sure you either get a home blood pressure monitor, go to a fire station, go to a pharmacy, and check the pressure when you're in your own comfortable environment after you've done that slow, deep breathing like we did at our early meditation, and keep a log to see if that 132 is what you normally are, or if you would just, if you're in pain, that can make your blood pressure go up. If you're anxious, if you just finished walking from the parking lot, you want to make sure by monitoring your blood pressure at home what it really is. And yes, if that top number is not less than 120, if that bottom number is not less than 80, then your blood pressure is not optimal. And that's when you need to really follow up with the physician.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Well, I will ask another question. How about being hydrated, drinking enough? So being dehydrated, does it affect one's blood pressure?
You definitely want to stay hydrated. You know, I keep a bottle of water by me. Because here's the thing about hydration. If by the time you feel thirsty, it's too late. Like your body is already behind in water. And so I definitely want people to consult, you know, their own physicians to find out how much water is right for you. But most people, most adults should be drinking anywhere from 2 to 3 liters of water a day. So if you think about a typical 16-ounce water bottle, anywhere
Mhm.
from 4 to 6 of these a day, that's a lot of water. So that's going to
Yeah.
help to flush out those kidneys, to keep that creatinine down. And that creatinine is the marker, you know, for the kidney function. Now, if you're a person, there's certain people who cannot drink a lot of water. Like if you have lung disease, like emphysema, or if you have congestive heart failure,
Mm, mm.
those your doctor might limit the water. But for most people, you should be drinking anywhere from 4 to 6 of these 16-ounce bottles of water. And you can flavor it, you can let fruit soak in it, but that definitely is going to help to flush out toxins and to make you healthier. So I'm glad you mentioned the hydration.
All right.
Joyce had a question, but she can't get unmuted, so I'm trying to see if
Oh.
Jarek.
Okay. And Cheryl, feel free because you work with people.
Oh, while we're waiting to get her question, I do want to, you know, I'm going back to that blood pressure and the 132 and them
Yeah.
just kind of nodding and being like, yeah, that's okay, that's fine. Doctors do a lot of nodding with abnormal kidney function too. And so I want everyone to pay attention to the labs. The creatinine, that C word, is the marker for kidney function. And then the GFR, estimated glomerular filtration rate, that's the marker for kidney function as well. For most people, just to give a round number, you want the creatinine to be low, the lower the better, around 1.0 or less. And that lets us know that if the creatinine is low, we know the kidneys are working because they're getting rid of creatinine and they're getting rid of other poisons and toxins as well. But a lot of doctors will look and they'll see if the creatinine is in the ones, 1.4, 1.5, they might tell you, oh, that's okay. But that really could be a sign of kidney disease. And you have to go to that EGFR number to find out. Because if your EGFR is less than 60, then it's time to see a kidney doctor. So that's another part of being your own advocate. And one of my YouTube videos is on CKD staging. And so many of my patients are shocked because they'll see me and they'll be like, hey, I make good urine. You know, I don't have swelling. I don't have a problem with my kidneys. By the time you stop making urine, it's too far gone, you know. So early stages of chronic kidney disease, which yes, Black people are disproportionately affected. Black people, Latino people, disproportionately affected by kidney disease. And oftentimes it's because it's been silently going on. And if you're not your own advocate and you're not with the doctor who's really paying attention, then you could miss it. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question.
Hi.
Hi, Dr. Frida. Thank you very much for this education. I've seen you on YouTube, and I'm really, I feel very privileged to hear you today. And I've learned so much from you. And my question is, I can't thank you enough, Dr. Frida, how you've opened our eyes. My question is, I'm on a whole food plant-based diet. I've been vegetarian for many years, at least 17 years.
Wow.
And what happened is my blood pressure, I had a high blood pressure. And the last time I went to the doctor in March, and my blood pressure was very high. So they recommended that I lower my salt, period. So what I did, I stopped eating, like you said, I stopped eating all the veggie burgers that I'd been eating for 15 years. I stopped eating salt, period. And when I went back 2 weeks later, my blood pressure had dropped from 140 to 120.
Oh, wow.
120 over, well, it was still 80, 120 over 80 from 140 over 90. And so it dropped, and in the interim, I lost some weight. And to date, I've lost about at least 20 pounds.
Wow.
So I asked my physician, he's very good. I asked him to work with me to get rid of my hydrochlorothiazide that I've been taking for more than 20 years. And so he said, yes, he'll support me. And he dropped me down to half hydrochlorothiazide a day for 14 days. And then after that, I can stop taking it. So my concern is, I have two questions related to this. How often should I take my blood pressure? Because I bought a no BP cup. Well, it's no longer a cup, it's digital now. So I bought a machine to take my own BP at home. And should I have at least like 500? Because I'm almost used to having no salt in my added salt. Should I take like at least 500 milligram? Is there a danger in not having that mineral in my food?
Okay, so first of all, you say that you're privileged. I'm very privileged to be here. I'm very happy just for so many reasons. Like I couldn't be celebrating Juneteenth in a better way than to be doing what I love, talking about health, wellness in a way to free people. And what'd you say, Ms. Marguerite? Everybody's my people. We can free ourselves.
Yeah.
And your story about being plant-based and still having high sodium, I'm so happy that you brought that up, because that is exactly the point. You know, we still live in a kind of quick move, microwave, fast world. And so just because it's plant-based doesn't mean it's healthy. So still be the label watcher. So I'm glad that you're doing that. And yes, there is a danger to having too little sodium. There's a danger to having too little sodium. In fact, some studies recommend that you should not go less than 1,500 milligrams. Some say you should not go less than 1,000. I definitely would not do less than 1,000 and probably do 1,500. That being said, you may still be taking in some sodium because some foods naturally have salt. Some foods naturally have salt that you may not be taking, you might not take it into account. And so if you're doing less than 500, that would be very tricky to do. That'd be very tricky to do. But I would definitely talk to your physician about the amount of milligrams of sodium you should have, but I wouldn't go less than probably 1,500 milligrams. So that's taking into account the natural, even fruits and vegetables that have some salt in them. There may be some that you're not accounting for.
Okay, because I don't add salt to my cooking. And when I cook my beans, no salt. So it's all the natural salt that I'm getting. And I thank you so much, Dr. Frida. I want to say something though. What has helped me also to lose weight. So I don't use oil in my food. And also I eat yams, I eat sweet potato, rice, beans, good old rice and beans, and kale and collard green, and mustard green, all those greens. Good. And that food is really good. So, but I'm going to talk to the doctor, and I guess I'll have to add a little bit salt to especially my, to some of my food. Thank you, Dr. Frida.
Or find out how much of your food has natural salt in it, because you may be getting up over 1,000 milligrams with the salt.
Okay.
Yes. And your doctor may actually specifically send you to a plant-based nutritionist who can help you with that.
Okay.
But you mentioned all of those foods, and people think that being a vegetarian or being vegan is just eating iceberg lettuce and just being miserable at the table. But those rich, colorful foods you mentioned, and filling food, and so congratulations to you on the weight loss, on the low sodium, and I think that's wonderful. Thank you.
And thank you for your help also, doctor. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Joyce?
Yes, sir.
It sounds like we're all coming to your house.
Yeah. Hey, you are welcome. Please do. And listen, and I cook okra too. Gumbo without meat, without salt. I put a little bit of gumbo filet in it. Girl, you have no idea how good that is. Okay.
And what I wanted to say, thank you, Joyce. Thanks for your input.
Thank you.
Talking about, when you talked about gumbo, okra is the main ingredient in gumbo. And we grew up on okra, picking it from the bush and then, cook it. So we know okra. But not too long ago, I heard how valuable okra is. Right? It has a lot of nutrients. It's not just the fried thing that we are used to.
So yeah, okra, you have a lot of these superfoods, and that's why, you know,
Mhm.
they eat the rainbow, because when you have that variety of colors, you are getting a lot of those various minerals, the nutrients, the antioxidants to help fight inflammation, to help fight cancer. You know, while you're enjoying food, if you're eating the rainbow, then you're really having a heart healthy diet and helping to fight off some of the diseases. I declare y'all have made me hungry. Is there a virtual reception after the virtual summit? Because I'm ready to eat now.
Oh wow, I wish there was. I had I don't know if y'all can still hear me. I wish there was. Next
Hey,
time.
yeah.
Next time.
Hey, Cheryl, is she still there? No. Anyone else has a question?
Yeah, I have a question. Is there
Yeah.
any recommendation on, you know, what kind of blood pressure cuff? I mean, I'm on Amazon. There's like millions. Are they all do the same thing? They're all different prices.
They, for the most part, they'll do the same thing as far as getting you within a few millimeters mercury of your accurate. The wrist ones tend to be more convenient and easier to do. The ones that are on the arm are certainly, that measure the blood pressure from the antecubital fossa, from the bend in your elbow. Those are good as well. Most of my patients, honestly, are on the wrist cuffs, but this is what I have them to do. I have them to go to their local fire station so they can compare what they get on the wrist cuff to what the people who work at the fire station get on those. And that's a service that your fire station will provide to you. And you can get your blood pressure cuff calibrated. But my patients do well with the wrist cuffs, because I definitely rather them have a wrist cuff, even if it's off by a few millimeters of mercury, off by a few points, as opposed to just having insanely high blood pressures and they have no idea. Yeah. And so even for me, when I go out to health fairs and we have, we're out in places, especially rural places, and we're on the run, a lot of times we'll have those wrist cuffs just to give us a ballpark.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, cool. Thank you. Okay.
When checking that blood pressure, to do slow, deep breathing, you want your arm to be at the level of your heart in order to get a more accurate reading. So you want your arm to be kind of up at the level of your heart, and resting on the surface to get the most accurate blood pressure.
Okay.
And slow breathe the breaths in and out, so it's not higher than it really is.
Okay.
And maybe drink before taking it?
Well, no, you don't have to drink before taking it. Here's another thing. If you have a full bladder, that'll actually make your blood pressure higher. So you want to have an empty bladder. Empty bladder.
Okay.
Yeah. Full bladder can make blood pressure higher. And that's one of those little nuances that doesn't usually come up in conversation. You don't want a full bladder when you check the blood pressure.
Cool. I am curious, doctor, what motivated you to become a physician?
Well, I'll tell you. Well, my father is a physician. He retired now, but he is a general and peripheral vascular surgeon. He was a general surgeon when general meant general. So he, would take care of intestinal cancers, colon cancers, remove those.
Everything.
Breast biopsies or remove breast cancers. People with pancreatic cancer, he would take care of that. Gallbladders out, appendix out, and also vascular surgery. He actually would put in dialysis accesses to patients, and he was even doing it before the government was paying for dialysis, like like in the 1970s, early on. And so he, of course, was a very great motivator. And then his brothers are also doctors as well. And I'm very proud of my family, because, one of his brothers is an OBGYN. Two of them are dentists, and even his sister, my late auntie Lily, was a doctor of theology. And this is why I'm so proud, because their parents, my grandparents, had no formal education. Their education stopped like in elementary and middle school, but they instilled in them the importance of education, of hard work, and of having a responsibility to your community. So if you make it and your brother hasn't made it, or that person back in the neighborhood hasn't made it, that you haven't made it. And so they've passed that on to us. But so that's really my main motivation. My father, Dr. Freddie McCray, and he might be on the call. I don't know. Can y'all see if Dr. Freddie McCray is on the call? I don't know. He might be. But
Awesome.
and
Well,
then of course I fell in
we're
love with
grateful.
science. I fell in love with biology, and what better way to deal with biology and science, which I love, and then dealing with people, which I really love people, than to combine the two and be a doctor.
Thank you so much. Thank you for following through with that and the inspiration. If your dad is here, thank you so much, sir. For and I think I don't know if you ever think about it, what we can do in our community to get more young people interested in the sciences, health science, and et cetera, et cetera. Have you, does that cross your mind?
It absolutely does. And you know what? I find that people can't be what they don't see. You know, when we're dealing with young people who don't see doctors who look like them, so young Black children in particular, if you haven't seen a Black doctor, then you don't imagine that you can be one. If you don't have one in your family, or if it's nothing that's really tangible right there. And so that's why, look, at least before this pandemic, but I've done some virtual volunteering as well. But certainly before the pandemic, I would go out to the high schools, not the high schools in the ritzy, fancy areas, but I like to go to the high schools and the underserved areas. And I find that so many of those children, they're so bright, they're so they're so brilliant. But when you sit down and you talk, some of them, you know, they're in situations where they go home, they don't know if their lights are going to be on or not, or, you know, they have to work, not just for themselves, not just buy sneakers and clothes for themselves, but to help pay the family's bills, you know, and it's like that Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If your basic food, shelter, safety needs aren't being met, then you're not necessarily going to be interested in a higher education. And so it really starts at the basics, right? Giving our children what they need, and then showing them what they can be and encouraging them. So yeah, so I definitely do a lot of volunteer work, and sometimes I think it's almost just enough to show a Black face, a female face, and to say, you can do it, you know, because like I said, you know, people can't be what they don't see.
Right. And it's maybe a suggestion to maybe your daughters can or the children can help you get you on TikTok, and so to show your face there, and you know, you're on YouTube and all the other. Are you on TikTok?
Oh dear. Oh dear. So let me tell you, you don't know what you just said.
Oh.
Not on TikTok, but on Instagram, there's something called Instagram Reels, where they're like 50 seconds and 30 seconds. Yeah. And my passion outside of medicine is dancing. And so I do a lot of the dancing on TikTok. I have the words, I have medical messages up there. And I find that the young people will direct message me, they'll DM me, and, you know, while they're talking about the dance moves and this, that, and the other, I'll be like, hey, you know, do you know what your blood pressure is? How old are your parents? You know, talk to your parents. Do they have a doctor? And I'll get a chance to reel them in. So we're on the same page.
Yes, ma'am.
It's Dr. Frieda. I have a TikTok. Really, it's on the Instagram Reels where I put all of my dance videos. They have medical messages usually.
Yeah. Cool. Oh my God. we could keep you here forever, but we know we only ask you for an hour. And anybody else has a quick question for Dr. Frieda, please? No? Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank
you. And I really appreciate it. And I sincerely hope we can collaborate to further even beyond.
I do have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi.
Oh, hi. Thank you for being there for us. You were talking about the sodium and using 1,500 a day. So I'm wondering, what is your suggestion as far as how do you measure that?
Well,
how do you measure?
Because
that would be kind of difficult.
it's tricky. Like if you go to a restaurant, you really can't measure. All you can do is say, please don't add any salt to my food that you're cooking, and just hope that they don't, right? So it's tough when you're at a restaurant. Pre-packaged foods, that's going to be your best bet at being able to see. Picking up that ketchup bottle, picking up that soup can and looking, picking up whatever vegetables you happen to buy, if you buy frozen vegetables that are prepackaged. But as far as and that's how you measure your sodium. You look at that sodium in the milligrams, and you try to make sure it doesn't add up to more than 1,500 milligrams, certainly no more than 2,000 milligrams. And then for the cooking that you're doing, if you are putting salt in it, you can literally get a teaspoon or a quarter of a teaspoon and know that every quarter of the teaspoon is 590 milligrams of regular table salt, and you can sprinkle it in accordingly. You know, that's the way that you can measure with what you're cooking at home. But other than that, it's the label watching that will allow you to measure.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Since we have the doctor here, if you're muted, oh, well, I don't know, maybe you can type it in the chat. Jared, who watches the chat? Is anybody looking at the chat? Ron, can you see if there are questions, please? No? Okay.
There are no questions on the chat.
On the chat, okay. Well, with this, I totally am excited. Again, as I said, you are in the health arena. We are in the financial health, because it's also important to help relieve people from their financial worries. So that is what on this end, Ron and I do. So I hope we can continue to collaborate and work together to help people experience the freedom. I thank you so much, Dr. Frita, and wish you all the best. God bless you.
Thank you. God
Ron,
bless you.
any closing words, Ron? For now. Yeah, any closing words for the doctor?
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Frida, for your time. We know your time is very important, and we appreciate every second of it and the advice that you've given us today. So I just went ahead and added you on Instagram so I can keep getting this great information that you have to share. And not only will it help our lives, but it help, other people's life that we run across. So we can say, hey, this is what you can do. And if you need more support or information, go follow Dr. Frida. She get that information to you. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. And just remember that free PDF I talked about, 10 healthy habits for a better you, better life. You just go to drfrida.com, and it's a free resource among many other free resources I have on my website.
We'll do.
Thank you, Dr. Frida.
We hope to see you tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, actually, we are done for today. I think we had a successful session with Dr. Frita. And so tomorrow we'll do this all over again with another subject and another speaker. Jared, thank you so much. And the team behind the scene, I thank you so much for doing this. This is just awesome. Thank you, and good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. Good night. Thanks for the invite.